I would necessarily have. It is a moment where you need to have that discussion. The monarchy provides, with the Constitution, a degree.
Princess Anne has revealed one of King Charles's final wishes, something deeply personal that caught both Prince William and Prince Harry by surprise. In a family marked by quiet tensions and unspoken distance, the king's request has left his son stunned and uncertain about what comes next. The unexpected summit. The moment Prince Harry arrived alone at Windsor, the tension in the air was palpable. Meghan's absence didn't go unnoticed, stirring whispers among staff even before the meeting kicked off. By having only Harry attend, the couple sent a loud, silent message about the state of their relationship with the royal family. Inside the grand halls, silence hung heavy. King Charles had summoned everyone under his command, but the atmosphere was thick with unspoken words. Security had also been beefed up, a clear signal that this meeting was about much more than family pleasantries. The real surprise: Charles, usually the one to address the family, had chosen not to speak himself. Instead, Princess Anne was given the task of delivering his message, and although you kind of know that this might happen, you don't really think about it very much, not least of all because the monarchy is about continuity. A break from tradition that immediately made it clear how serious things were. Many hadn't seen the king in weeks, and his appearance reflected the toll his ongoing health struggles had taken. Standing before the family, Anne was the epitome of composure, her posture rigid with the weight of her task. When she spoke, her words cut through the thick tension like a hot knife. This wasn't just another royal announcement, it was a seismic shift in the monarchy's future. What had been expected to be a gradual transition was now being fast-tracked. The monarchy, it seemed, was undergoing a total overhaul. William's face betrayed his shock at the magnitude of what was being asked of him. The timeline for his ascension had been drastically shortened. What was supposed to take years was now squeezed into mere months. Harry, standing on the periphery, sensed the irreversible shift that had taken place. His eyes met William's for a split second, an unspoken understanding passing between them, despite the distance that had grown between them. Within moments, arguments erupted. Prince Edward, who usually played the role of peacekeeper, found himself caught in the middle of the family's growing divide. Even Camilla, often reserved when it came to family matters, voiced her concerns about the rapid pace of change. Everyone was struggling to wrap their heads around the sudden shift. But this wasn't a decision Charles made lightly. His health was in decline, and he knew the monarchy's future depended on this restructuring. The years of scandal, public distrust, and internal divisions had reached a tipping point. Anne had been specifically chosen to deliver this message after much deliberation. Charles, in his weakened state, had spent countless sleepless nights crafting and redrafting the announcement, consulting only his most trusted advisors. Among the royals, Anne was known for her blunt honesty, traits that sometimes put her at odds with the monarchy's preference for diplomacy. But in this moment, her straightforward approach was exactly what Charles needed. In a family where uncomfortable truths were often wrapped in ceremony, Anne was the one person he could trust to speak plainly. When she finished, there was a long silence. Even the staff in the room seemed to hold their breath. The weight of centuries of tradition felt like it might come crashing down at any moment. Charles's plan wasn't just about passing the crown. It was about completely reevaluating the monarchy's place in the modern world. With declining approval ratings and growing Republican sentiment in Commonwealth nations, Charles knew the institution couldn't continue on its current path. Recent polls showed a steep drop in support among younger Brits, a trend Charles could no longer ignore. His plan included trimming down the number of working royals, opening up royal properties to the public, and overhauling the monarchy's finances in ways that would have been unthinkable under previous reigns. This wasn't about tradition anymore. It was about ensuring the monarchy's survival in a skeptical age. William would still inherit the throne, but the monarchy around him was being reimagined. Britons want Prince William to take the crown when Queen Elizabeth's reign ends. It was no longer just about titles. It was about influence, public image, and whether the monarchy could continue to matter after everything it had endured. The weight of history. Charles' decision wasn't made in a vacuum. It was shaped by nearly a century of royal history. The abdication crisis of 1936, when Edward VIII stepped down, had forced his unprepared brother, George VI, onto the throne, almost destabilizing the monarchy. Then, when George died young in 1952, his daughter Elizabeth II had inherited the throne at an unexpectedly young age, shouldering enormous responsibilities that most didn't anticipate until middle age. Charles grew up watching his mother sacrifice her personal life for duty. Their relationship was strained, and it gave him a complex view of royal obligation. Watching the crown consume his mother's identity, he learned early on that power wasn't glamorous. It isolated her, turning her into a living symbol of the state, her personal wishes always secondary to the public's expectations. When Elizabeth died in 2022, the monarchy lost its last pillar of consistency. Her 70-year reign had hidden the institution's deeper problems. Charles' cancer diagnosis soon after, though kept private at first, made it clear that time was now a luxury he couldn't afford. Suddenly, securing the monarchy's future had become urgent. Having spent decades preparing to be king, Charles found himself facing the very real possibility that his reign could be cut short by illness. The irony wasn't lost on him, or on royal historians who had long studied the delayed successions in Windsor history. Now, with his health failing, Charles was determined that William wouldn't inherit the same institutional weaknesses that had made his own transition so difficult. Charles had always been the patient heir, but time was running out. The crown was no longer just a symbol. It was fragile, and it needed protection from external criticism and internal strife. Every public appearance required medical planning, with doctors always on standby. Charles studied European monarchies, and the chaos that followed rushed abdications. He didn't want to repeat their mistakes. His decisions were focused on the survival of the institution, not personal legacy. He implemented new financial transparency measures, started discussions about returning royal artifacts to former colonies, and began converting some royal estates into public housing, all moves that would have been unimaginable under previous monarchs. Behind the scenes, William and Kate were quietly assuming more responsibilities. Reports indicated that William now received the government's red boxes alongside his father, a gradual but clear transfer of power. Prince William is match fit for a possible call-up to the top job. William's involvement in meetings with the Prime Minister and international leaders was growing. He was being prepared, step by step, for the weight of the crown. Kate's crucial role. Kate moved naturally into a central position without fanfare or official announcement. Where Diana had struggled with the constraints of royal life, and Meghan had ultimately rejected them, Kate demonstrated a remarkable adaptability. She took on solo responsibilities, managed programs addressing childhood development and mental health, and hosted foreign dignitaries with quiet confidence that impressed even veteran diplomats. She became a figure of stability that both the public and the royal family could depend on. Though William would wear the crown, Kate was becoming the emotional anchor of the monarchy's future. Her relationship with Charles had evolved from formal to genuinely warm, with the king increasingly seeking her counsel on family matters. Charles recognized in her the stability his own marriage had initially lacked. Unlike many who married into royalty, Kate brought authenticity rather than aristocratic connections. Her middle-class background, once subtly mocked by some courtiers as too common, now represented a vital connection to ordinary British life. Queen Elizabeth had recognized her steady presence early on, while others like Camilla initially saw her as a potential challenge to their influence. Kate's strength came from remaining grounded despite entering an institution built on tradition and hierarchy. Her handling of public challenges proved her value repeatedly. When Meghan Markle claimed that Kate had made her cry during wedding preparations, Kate maintained dignified silence. She didn't issue statements or give interviews. She simply continued her work with increased visibility. This restraint demonstrated a strength that impressed royal advisors and the public alike. Her approval ratings consistently outpaced most other family members, including William at times. Behind palace walls, Kate's influence extends beyond public appearances. She has modernized aspects of royal parenting, insisting her children have experiences outside the bubble of privilege. She's earned trust through sound judgment and consistency in private council meetings, While others created headlines with scandals, Kate built credibility through reliable service. At Charles's coronation, her presence signaled the monarchy's direction, the future standing confidently beside the present, ready to step forward when needed. Her relationship with the younger royals, particularly Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis, has established her as the family's emotional center. Staff report that even the Queen's corgis, notoriously selective in their affections, respond positively to her presence. In a family structure often criticized for emotional coldness, Kate has carefully introduced warmer parenting practices while respecting necessary traditions. The monarchy faces unprecedented scrutiny in the digital age. Social media has transformed how royal actions are interpreted, with every appearance dissected by millions online. Public relations experts attached to the palace now monitor digital sentiment around the clock, providing daily briefings on how royal activities are being perceived. This represents a fundamental shift from Elizabeth's era, when public opinion developed more slowly through traditional media channels. Charles recognized this new reality early in his reign. He established the first Royal Social Media Council, composed of both traditional advisors and digital natives, to help navigate online communication strategies. Despite initial resistance from older courtiers, this approach has helped the monarchy respond more effectively to controversies before they escalate. The brothers divide. Meanwhile, Prince Harry remains caught between worlds, his life in California establishing new roots, while his British identity keeps him tethered to the institution he left years after stepping back from royal duties. He still factors into the monarchy's future, through both his bloodline and his ongoing narrative about royal life. Despite public mentions of family love in carefully crafted statements, the relationship between Harry and William remains deeply damaged. They haven't had meaningful conversation in years, with tensions only increasing after Harry and Meghan's Oprah interview revealed private family discussions about their children's potential skin color. Harry's memoir, Spare, further widened the gap, with revelations about physical altercations between the brothers and unflattering portrayals of both William and Kate. Palace staff, who have served both brothers, report that William refuses to discuss Harry in private, immediately changing the subject when his name arises. Rumors persist that Harry has additional revelations prepared but unreleased. Insiders close to the Sussexes suggest entire chapters were removed from Spare before publication at the advice of legal counsel. Some believe he's waiting for a moment of reconciliation, while others think he's holding back to see what kind of King William becomes. The existence of this potential material creates ongoing anxiety within palace walls. But whether Harry can ever return to the royal fold may no longer be his decision. That power increasingly rests with William, whose position strengthens as Charles's health fluctuates. The dynamic has shifted fundamentally. Harry can no longer appeal to his father as the ultimate authority on his status. The future lies entirely in his brother's hands. I don't think that we can ever have peace with my family unless the truth is out there. As William prepares for leadership, his approach appears more decisive than his father's. Where Charles absorbed family conflicts quietly, often internalizing stress, William seems ready to establish clear boundaries and expectations. According to senior palace sources, one of his first acts as king might be formally removing Harry and Meghan's Royal Highness titles, which they retained but agreed not to use when stepping back from royal duties. William believes the monarchy needs sharper definition about who represents it in a media landscape where any statement can be amplified globally. Those who choose to leave shouldn't continue holding titles connected to the institution they've abandoned. This position hardened when Meghan was recently referred to as Her Royal Highness in a reposted message from a foreign diplomat, despite agreements not to use that title. For William, this highlighted the ongoing confusion about their status and the need for clearer boundaries. Another significant challenge facing the monarchy is its relationship with Commonwealth nations. During Elizabeth's reign, her personal popularity helped maintain these connections even as many former colonies reassessed their relationship with Britain. Since her death, several Caribbean nations have begun formal processes to remove the British monarch as head of state, following Barbados' example in 2021. Charles has approached this issue with pragmatism rather than resistance. He privately acknowledged that this evolution was inevitable and potentially healthy. Rather than fighting to maintain symbolic leadership positions, his strategy focused on transforming these relationships into meaningful partnerships based on shared interests rather than historical obligation. This approach has surprised many who expected him to fight harder to preserve traditional roles. William has been central to implementing this new vision. His tours of Commonwealth nations now focus heavily on climate initiatives, education partnerships, and cultural exchange rather than ceremonial duties. Behind the scenes, he's been meeting with Commonwealth youth leaders to understand their perspectives on the monarchy's future role. These conversations have sometimes led to uncomfortable realizations about how the younger generation views Britain's colonial past. The transition represents one of the most significant shifts in British foreign policy in decades. For centuries, these relationships were fundamental to Britain's global influence. Now, both Charles and William recognize that clinging to outdated power structures will only accelerate their collapse. Instead, they're working to build a Commonwealth relationship based on mutual respect rather than historical deference. Charles' final wish for Charles, whose reign has been overshadowed by health concerns and his mother's long legacy. His final royal wish extends beyond ceremonial concerns. He hoped for family healing, not complete reconciliation, but at least an opening where communication might begin again, according to those closest to him. He spends late evenings reviewing family photographs from happier times, particularly those showing William and Harry together as children. He didn't want Harry fully reinstated to working royal status, but neither did he want him permanently estranged. The king has maintained private communication with Harry through trusted intermediaries, even when direct conversation became too difficult. Charles believed family connections carried responsibilities that couldn't simply be erased by geographic distance or public disagreements. His view was nuanced, trying to protect the monarchy while acknowledging blood ties that transcended institutional concerns. He hoped to leave behind not just a functioning institution, but a family that hadn't completely fallen apart. This concern intensified as his health declined, creating a sense of urgency around healing family wounds before time ran out. Princess Anne delivered this message with characteristic directness at the Windsor meeting. As someone respected by both William and Harry for her no-nonsense approach, she conveyed Charles's wish as a matter of duty rather than emotion. But even she understood that reconciliation depends on willingness from both parties, something she privately doubted existed in sufficient measure to bridge the divide. The king's medical team has advised against emotional stress during his treatment, making direct intervention in the brothers' relationship impossible. Instead, he has tasked his most trusted advisors with creating potential pathways to communication that might be activated when the time is right. These plans sit in a private safe in his personal study, to be implemented if his condition worsens significantly. The monarchy can plan ceremonies and issue statements, but it cannot heal emotional wounds through royal decree. It cannot undo public revelations or heal private betrayals through protocol. Charles tried to create space for understanding, but whether that opportunity will be taken is now beyond his control, as his focus necessarily shifts to his health battles. The decision rests with William. His approaching reign isn't merely ceremonial. It represents a fundamental choice about the monarchy's direction and whether the family can find any common ground after years of public conflict. Will he honor his father's wish for a slight opening, or will he firmly close the door Harry walked through? The answer will shape not just family dynamics, but the public perception of the monarchy for decades to come. Behind palace walls, advisors debate strategies and timing. Some advocate for a clean break, remove titles, clarify succession lines, and move forward with the streamlined monarchy focused entirely on those who remained loyal. Others caution that such finality might generate public sympathy for Harry and Meghan, particularly if it coincides with Charles's declining health. Royal historians remind both sides that divided families have historically weakened the institution. But William's ultimate decision remains unpredictable. Those closest to him report increasing confidence in his judgment and willingness to make difficult choices. Charles's final message wasn't just a request. It was a test of William's vision for the monarchy's future and his capacity to balance institutional needs against family bonds. The monarchy's modern identity. King Charles inherited more than a crown. He inherited a monarchy caught between tradition and transformation. The institution once defined by ceremony and silence now faces a world where visibility is everything, and silence is often seen as indifference. Charles knows this. Unlike previous monarchs, he did not rise suddenly to the throne. He waited for decades, watching public opinion evolve, watching institutions crumble, and learning what no other king before him had to learn: how to lead in a time when leadership itself is questioned. From the beginning of his reign, Charles has made it clear that this will not be a monarchy of spectacle. It will be streamlined, deliberate, and more responsive to the social climate. His vision has always included a slimmed-down royal family, fewer public appearances, fewer working royals, fewer taxpayer-funded roles. This is not just a cost-saving measure. It's an attempt to rebuild trust by showing restraint and relevance. The late Queen Elizabeth II was a symbol of continuity. Charles, by contrast, wants to represent adaptation. He sees that society has changed. People demand transparency. They challenge inherited power. They question everything from wealth to tradition. Charles understands that the modern monarchy must not only survive these questions, but prove its worth through conduct and reform. This is a delicate balance, honoring the past while adjusting to new public expectations. But reshaping the monarchy's identity is not something Charles can do alone. He is surrounded by a shrinking team of senior royals. Prince William and Princess Kate are essential to the monarchy's future. They attract public sympathy and international attention. But recent health issues affecting both Charles and Kate have left gaps in visibility and workload. In a media age, absence quickly becomes vulnerability. When key figures disappear from public life, speculation fills the space. And speculation, once released, is nearly impossible to contain. Throughout her life, Her Majesty the Queen, my beloved mother. This is why Charles has made media management a quiet priority. He has not declared war on the press, but he has made new rules. Under his leadership, royal engagements are shorter, tighter, and more selective. Photographers no longer move freely. Information is shared only when necessary. There are fewer spontaneous moments, fewer leaks, and more rehearsed appearances. This is not a retreat. It is a strategy to protect the family's image while preserving their dignity. Charles is aware that the monarchy no longer controls the narrative by default. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's decision to speak publicly, through interviews and streaming deals, showed the world that palace silence is no longer effective. It created a situation where emotion and conflict were broadcast globally, and the royal family was forced to respond, not through press statements, but through behavior. Charles' response has been to maintain a calm exterior and avoid public counterattacks. But privately, he is reorganizing how the monarchy handles public perception. In this new identity, control and caution are central. The royal family's relationship with the media has been transformed. Charles has approved internal reviews of communications and limited insider access. Reports suggest increased monitoring of leaks and more direct oversight of press relations. It may not be dramatic, but it is a quiet shift in power dynamics. The king is no longer just a ceremonial figure. He is the final editor of the monarchy's public face. But there is a cost to caution. The more the family withholds, the more the public speculates. In today's world, people do not respond to mystery with admiration. They respond with doubt. The king is trying to maintain the institution's mystique without appearing distant or indifferent. This is perhaps the most difficult part of his job, staying present without being too exposed. So far, Charles's approach has been consistent. He is modernizing through discipline, not drama. He is reshaping the monarchy's identity through reduced scale and increased control. He is not chasing popularity, but legitimacy. And legitimacy, in his view, must come from responsibility, not charm. This version of the monarchy may not appeal to everyone. It is more muted, more cautious, and more managed than ever before. But for Charles, this is not about performance. It is about preparing the institution to exist in a time when nothing is sacred and everything is public. As William stands on the edge of his future reign, one decision could shift the course of the monarchy forever. What do you think? Should William honor his father's final wish or take a harder stance for the sake of the crown's stability? Let us know in the comments.